So your friend or maybe your family member has asked you to give a speech at their wedding, and now you're panicked. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to talk about. How long should it be? You have all these questions running through your mind. Relax, don't worry, you have come to the right place. I have had the privilege of giving speeches at many friends' weddings, and today in this video, I am going to give you tips on how you can crush that speech and make it memorable for the bride and groom. What's up everyone, my name is Wade Patterson. My YouTube channel is all about communication, so if this video is helpful, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, do all of those, and I'm going to continue delivering videos that help you be a better communicator. So back to the wedding speeches. You're asked to give a speech, you're wondering, well, what does a great speech look like? The first piece of advice I have for you is that every great speech has an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So an introduction is a great line or maybe a paragraph, a few sentences that draws in the audience's interest. The body is the majority of the speech, which maybe includes a personal story, and the conclusion is what wraps that all up into a nice sentence which allows you to say, let's raise a glass to this couple, or something along those lines. Now, almost every wedding speech I have seen that I would categorize as the best of those speeches includes a personal story. A personal story that is relatable to everybody, especially if it includes a little bit of self-deprecating humor on your own behalf. That is what the audience will really love. You can poke a little bit of fun at the bride and groom, but you don't want to roast those people. You want to, if anything, include self-deprecating humor and make them, raise them up, make them feel very special. And one of the keys you want to do is get the audience to laugh early. So if you can include a little piece of humor right up front in the first minute, it's going to do two things. First off, it's going to allow the audience to relax. So many audiences, the first thing that goes through their mind when they see a speaker is this person going to be funny? That's one of the first questions they have in their mind. And when you make them laugh, especially early on, it relaxes them and they know, okay, this is gonna be a good speech. But the thing it does for you is it relaxes you. Humor is one of the best tools you can leverage as a speaker, because when the audience laughs, you get an instant dose of confidence and you are able to carry through the rest of that speech knowing that you're on a roll. You're going, you've got the laughter already, that's done. But the longer you delay that bit of humor, the longer it's going to take, and it's going to be even that much more difficult to get the audience to laugh later on in the speech. So my piece of advice number 2 is to inject a little bit of humor up front, get the audience laughing and relaxed, and then you are on your way. From a tactical point of view, I would suggest that you do not write out your speech word for word with really detailed notes. I know that's a little bit scary and that many of you think, well, I'll need those notes. What if I forget what I'm going to talk about? I'm not saying not to have notes. The best speeches don't have notes. They are personal stories that are practiced and rehearsed and you're confident delivering them. But if you need to have notes, that's fine, but stick to a couple word phrases that remind you of specific things you're going to talk about. So for example, if you're going to tell a story of Steve's football days, then write on your notes, Steve football story, something that jogs your memory to talk about that. And then if you can't remember, if Steve's marrying Rachel and you want to say something nice about Rachel, in your notes, rather than writing out a paragraph about why Rachel's such a great person, simply put nice things about Rachel, because you will remember those things right away and you'll be able to transition to them. You should be able to write your notes on a few cue cards that are subtle rather than multiple pieces of paper, because the more you're reading off, it's less likely to get the audience to relax, it's less likely to really engage them. Now, if you're not confident with that approach, that's okay. You can write out the full speech, but I would suggest that at the beginning of each paragraph, just put a bold word record there what that paragraph is about, and on the speech day, you'll be surprised. You'll look at that and you won't need to read the notes. You'll simply see what that paragraph is about, and you will remember because you've done your practice, and you'll be able to deliver that flawlessly. And that is the next piece of advice, is to practice. Don't wing it when it comes to a speech. A lot of people joke about, haha, I'm winging it. First off, you'd be surprised how many people are lying. They've actually practiced it many times. They just want to lower the expectations. But the second thing is the audience can tell when you haven't prepared. So you want to make sure, I mean, this is your friend's big day. You want to make sure that you have done your part to deliver a memorable experience that they're going to recall fondly, rather than remember, oh, remember when so-and-so gave the worst speech I've ever heard. You don't want to be that person. So make sure that you put in the time, practice. You can even record yourself on your phone, or practice the speech in front of one of your friends who maybe isn't going to the wedding, and get them to give you their honest opinion of what they think. But definitely practice before you deliver the speech. If you're wondering how long the speech should be, I typically think around 5 to 7 minutes is the ideal length. If you go too much more than 7 minutes, it starts to feel like it's dragging on. And if it's less than 4 or 5 minutes, people will think, oh, that was pretty quick, and it doesn't seem like you actually put your time into it. What you need to remember is that often we speak faster in front of a group of people than we do when we're on our own practicing. So keep that in mind. If you've practiced your speech with nobody in the room and it's only 5 minutes, well, it's probably going to be 4 minutes or 3 minutes when you deliver that same speech in front of a group of people, because the nerves are there and it speeds up what we're doing. So on that note, you may want to aim for practicing on your own a speech that's about 7 minutes, because once you get in front of the group, you will be quicker. What you want to make sure you do with your speech, whether it's a toast to the bride or a toast to the groom, is acknowledge their partner as well. So this is a great chance to do right before the conclusion. In the speeches I've given, I've told a story primarily about the guy, so it's the groom who I know, who's my close friend, and I've told a personal story about that person, and then of course wrapped it up with why they're actually a great person. But after I've told the story about the groom, I bring in the bride and I talk about all of her amazing qualities and why I'm so happy these two have found each other, because their qualities are going to complement each other. And then from there, it brings you into your conclusion, maybe one last sentence of why you're so thrilled this marriage is happening, and then raise a glass, toast to the beautiful couple, something along those lines. But you want to make sure you recognize the other partner. So even if your speech is supposed to be about the groom, still have a few nice things to say about the bride. One thing you may want to avoid doing is to tell stories that are really inside jokes. So a lot of times I've been at weddings and they're like, hey Sandra, you remember that story? You know, and everyone else is like, we don't know, we don't get what's happening. So if you're going to tell an inside joke story, you need to tell the full story and allow everyone in on the joke. If you just give subtle references and point to one particular person, that person might find it hilarious, but the 80, 150, 250 other people will not understand what you're talking about. So be mindful of the full crowd when you're telling an inside joke or a story, and make sure everyone feels included. Another way your speech can be really powerful is by incorporating eye contact. So as you're telling it, make your best effort to look around the room and acknowledge, especially if there's several tables all around the room, try to make eye contact with at least one person at every table. And if that's very intimidating for you, a trick I use sometimes is looking at their foreheads. They don't know that I'm not looking them right at the eyes, but if I'm scared about what reaction they might have, I look a little bit above their eye line and they think I'm still looking them in the eyes, but then it allows me to just glance my eye contact from table to table. But the more you do that, the more everyone feels included on the speech. Now, if you're someone who hasn't given too many speeches before, it's really important to record yourself, because you may notice that you use a lot of filler words. Now, what are filler words? They're those words like but, so, and anything that is used to fill up the silence. For example, as I'm talking to you right now, I am not using filler words. Whereas a lot of people, especially if they're not used to speaking in front of a group, they say, so I met Steve about 8 years ago, and he's such a great guy. Steve is just amazing, and they use or or one of those words because it feels awkward to have silent space. At least it feels awkward for you. The truth is, it's the opposite for the audience. If you're including in between every sentence, it's actually quite distracting to listen to. But if you pause and you allow for silence, it might feel uncomfortable for you, but it's actually easier to listen to as an audience. So it's a great idea to actually, after you've gotten to a point where you've written the speech, you've practiced it, you don't really need to look at your notes too often, try recording yourself and see if you're using any of these filler words, and then understand what your filler words are and try to eliminate those as you practice more and more. The final tip I would give for this video is to deliver from the heart. At the end of the day, even if you're reading your notes and even if you don't make the audience laugh, the most important thing is that you're honest, that you tell the bride and groom how much it means to you to be there on their special day, how much it means that you're given the chance to tell about your relationship with those people and why you're excited for them, why you think that they're going to have a phenomenal future together because you know that they are the perfect couple for each other. A line like that that's really genuine is going to go so far, and especially on the conclusion side of things, if you can wrap up the speech like that, I mean, on a day of a wedding, there's emotions are flying, and you might even get the tears going from the audience if you can really just speak from the heart. And so if nothing else, if you're not the person to make it funny or to include humor or to look everywhere around the room, the best piece of advice I could give you is make that speech from the heart. Say what you genuinely feel toward that couple and make sure that they feel loved on the most important day of their lives. Let me know in the comments, are you giving a speech coming up in the next few months? Did you already give a wedding speech? How did it go? I'd love to hear from you. And please subscribe to my channel. I am passionate about communications and making you a more impactful communicator. And I would love it if you subscribe to my channel, hit that like button. You know what to do. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.